Hey guys, Matt here, and welcome back to another episode. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a golden master image. So without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty, so golden master images are very useful in a production environment, but also useful in a home lab environment. And this is what I'm going to be using for an upcoming series that I'm going to start, and that is building the ultimate VMware home lab. Now, as you guys may be aware, I have talked about this several times in multiple videos, including my lab downstairs in my understairs cupboard. And this is fantastic. Now, what this allows me to do is it allows me to essentially create a master image that I then create what are called link clones off of that image. And that way it helps save space and on size as well. But also what it allows me to do is if I just need to delete one VM, it doesn't affect the whole entire scenario. However, there are some risks when creating this, but this we can talk about a little bit later. So let's go ahead and log on to my Mac here. Now, a couple of things as well to mention is you guys may notice that I have got an SSD down here, and this is actually used to store all my virtual machines on. And the reason I do this is just purely because it's awesome and I'm out of space at the moment, so I just like to use SSDs to work off, but also because I'm creating this golden master to do a bit of university work as well. I need to make sure that I've got an SSD that I can work off because I use those workstations there. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and log on to our Mac here. And as you guys can see, just got a couple of things I need to minimize here. Let's just quickly close all of that. Of course, this will all hopefully be blurred if I'm remembering what I need to do. Alrighty, so let me just quit out of there. Yes, I do want to quit. Alrighty. So what I'm going to go ahead here and do is launch a piece of software called VMWare Fusion, and this is essentially the Mac-based version of VMware. If you are using a Windows machine, there are two really good pieces of software, VMware Player and VMware Workstation. However, the one downside to using VMware Player on a Windows machine is you can't replicate this. You have to be using VMware Workstation. So as you guys can see here, I've got VMware opened up and a couple of things I've been preparing for this video. Now, I'm going to go ahead and completely create a new virtual machine from scratch. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on New, and I'm going to then select on my installation media. So just double click on that, and then I'm going to click here, use another disk or disk image. And then I'm going to go ahead and select my Windows Server image. Now, I just realized that this is actually a Windows 10 ISO because I'm an idiot and I just copied the wrong one across preparing this video. Thankfully, I do have a backup image on my NAS, which I'm just going to quickly select and use. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go ahead and browse to that directory. And I'm just going to browse to it and grab the image. And I'm just going to pull up a Windows Server 2016 ISO. Now, if you need to obtain these ISOs, which I'm not going to be showing you how to do, because by this time, by you clicking on this video, it's assumed that you have got some knowledge on attempting to access an ISO. It's just important that you make sure that you have a downloaded one and you've also got VMware activated and running as well. So what I've got ahead and done here is, as you can see, I've got ahead and I've got a Windows Server 2016 ISO that I've selected, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the next option here. Now, typically, VMware will always make sure that you go ahead and use what's called Easy Install, and this is fantastic if you just want to get a VM up and running for playing with. But because I'm setting this up in a particular environment where I'm going to be doing linked clones, it's not necessarily recommended in this scenario. But again, that's your choice, however you want to configure it, because that's what we're doing. We're essentially creating custom VMs that you can use. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select Continue. I'm not going to use I'm not going to go ahead and use the Easy Install for this one. I'm going to go ahead though and select Legacy BIOS, and the reason for that is because everything will be supported if you use that method instead. So that's why I tend to use it. All right, what I'm going to then go ahead and do is I'm going to now click on Customize Settings. I'm going to do a couple of things here as well. I'm going to save it, so I'm going to call it Windows Server 2016 Golden Master, and I'm then going to go ahead and put it in a new folder. Let's call this Virtual Machines. All right. In that folder, I'm then going to put it in here, but for some weird reason that got put in the wrong directory for some weird reason, but that's all right. I can work around with that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then I'm going to go ahead and change a couple of settings. So first things first is I tend to use 2 processors and 2 gigs of RAM because this Mac has got 16 gigs of RAM in it. That's absolutely fine for what we're doing. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I tend to make sure that the useful resolution for Retina display is not selected, because as soon as I install VMware tools, my Mac goes absolutely nuts with VMs, with the VMware, and makes the windows look ridiculously small. So we have to add scaling and all that sort of stuff on there, but I don't want to do that. The other thing I tend to always do is I like to use the bridge networking, just because it makes life a little easier. But if you were doing this for a home lab, which we're going to be showing a little bit later in this series, I'm going to make sure that we go ahead and we use a private VMware NAT, which allows you to still have internet access, but it completely isolates your main network off of VMware. So that way it just isolates your VM. So if you're doing penetration testing or whatnot, you can actually just make sure that you've still got internet access, but you're not affecting your main network. All right, so now that that's all configured, I'm going to go ahead and start up this virtual machine. This takes a couple of seconds, but thankfully it's not too long. It does take a couple of seconds to launch, but as you can see, we're going ahead and we're loading our files. So this takes a couple of seconds, typically, but thankfully, because it's pretty quick and I'm on an NVMe SSD, it should load pretty quickly. So as you can see here, Windows is loading, and this is like you're just doing any basic install of Windows Server. We're going through the process of installing it. We're going to select our hard drive. We're going to make sure that we accept the user terms and conditions. We set up our time and currency and all that sort of stuff. So let's go ahead. I'm going to do English Australia here because that's where I'm based. So it's just important that we get that based. But obviously, in this case, you choose your time and currency based on where you are. And then I'm select next and then install now. And this will take a couple of seconds. Okay, I'm going to select here, I don't have a product key at this stage. And what that means is you're just going to use it not activated, and that's absolutely fine. You can go ahead and activate it later on when you create your new linked clones. I'm going to click on Windows Server 2016 Standard Desktop Experience, and obviously if you are clicking on this video, you would have some knowledge of what is the difference between the desktop experience and the non-desktop experience. So I'm going to click on Next. And I'm just looking at my camera because I've got about 2 minutes left, but it will work. I'm going to click on I accept the license terms and then click next. And then finally, I'm going to click on custom install Windows only advanced. I'm then going to select new, click apply, and this will format the drive. Now that that's all done, I'm going to click next and wait for Windows to install the files. So I'm going to pause the video just for the sake of timing, and I'll be right back once this is installed. Alrighty, so here comes the next part of our Golden Master creation. So I let Windows go ahead and install, and as you can see here, we're now at the initial setup, and all we're going to go ahead and do for this one is just put in a password, agree to the terms and conditions, and then the fun begins. Now for this lab, I'm going to go ahead and just put in password 1, and that is accepted by Windows Server, and there you go. So I've clicked on finalize settings, and all I'm going to do is go ahead and send Control-Alt-Delete, put in our password of password 1, and that's it. We've installed Windows Server. So this is now the stage where you want to go ahead and get Windows Server set up that you can go ahead and get it ready to deploy out as a Golden Master. So this may include installing software, installing VMware tools, and putting any company software and any patches or any applications that you may want to use on here. I'm going to do a couple of things. So for this lab, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for a second out of full screen because I need to go ahead and select on virtual machine, and I need to go ahead here and select on VMware tools. And we'll use VMware tools so that way the application will work correctly. It still does, but VMware tools adds an extra layer of support to it. So I'm going to go ahead and launch VMware tools. And then from there, I'm going to also install some software as well. I'm also going to go ahead and launch the server manager so I can change a couple of settings. There's not too much I want to change, just apart from enabling remote desktop, just for good measures. I also want to go ahead and turn off the IE enhanced to administrators. And this is again how I customize it. You can customize it to however you want. Also, the other thing as well is I'm going to change the time zone. And then I'm going to sync that with the internet. Okay, that's now all synced, and I'm going to go ahead here and select on the VMware Tools installation and go through this setup. I select complete whenever it comes to making golden masters, because you may be using a different virtual machine at any time. So that's why I always like to use complete, because it may be on any type of platform that's VMware based. So I'm going to click on next and then click on install. The last thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I like to use a program called Nanite or Nanite. I can't pronounce it correctly. And all I go ahead and do is I'm going to install some software. So in this case, I think I'm just going to install Chrome and Firefox. So it may just be better to just install it manually. In that case, I'm just going to go ahead and download that. You probably just saw that a second ago. That's now VMware doing its install as we speak. And this is the issue I wanted to explain that I get to you. Now that I've enabled the installed VMware tools, I get this silly error. And it's just due to the fact is that this is a Fusion display on my Mac. So all I'm going to go ahead and do is click on settings, and I'm going to click on my display and turn off the full resolution, which makes life way easier. All right, so let's go ahead, download and install Chrome. I'm also going to do the same as well and get Firefox installed, just to demonstrate that I'm installing some software. This will only take a couple of seconds. Oh, that didn't exactly go to plan. That's all right. Firefox. Okay. And this is the part where it gets a little boring, but we still got to go through it. I'm going to click on download now and install that. I'm just going to run that and let this one do what it needs to do. I'm going to click no to that for now, and I'll explain why in a second. I'm going to run those two. All right, so while I'm letting those go ahead and install, the reason we're going to go ahead and select no to let VMware reboot is because the fact is we're going to be using what's called Sysprep. And Sysprep will automatically get it prepared and ready to go when you deploy it out. If you haven't heard of it, a SID is what gives the unique identifier of a virtual machine. And we need to make sure that that SID is removed and a new SID is applied to each virtual machine that we deploy out. Because if you have two unique SIDs, or two same SIDs that are the exact same, you're going to have issues. And that's what causes a lot of issues sometimes when it comes to when you deploy out VMs or copy them. They're going to use the same SID. And that can cause issues when you join to Active Directory, can cause issues sometimes when trying to join to a domain. So it's just important that way we make sure that the virtual machines have got a unique SID. And that's why we Sysprep it. So it removes the SID and gives it a brand new SID. And you can look a little bit more about that in a video that I'll include in the description, and you can understand a little bit more about that if you'd like. All right. So this is going to take some time. It's going to take about 5-6 minutes just to download Chrome. That's how slow our internet is. Typically, this would be done by now if you're on NBN or on a fiber link wherever you are, but unfortunately, that's not the case for us. So it's just easier that way. I just wait for it to go ahead and install. So again, I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back once I'm finished. Alrighty guys, so we're at the final stage now of getting VMware up and running, or getting our Golden Master up and running. As you can see, Firefox and Google Chrome have now officially installed. So this is now the fun part. So now that this is ready, we're going to go ahead and use a piece of software called Sysprep. The way we access it is we go to the C drive, we go Windows, System 32, and then look for a folder called Sysprep. Okay, this is the Sysprep folder, and we need to go ahead and locate Sysprep. Double click. All right. So as you guys can see here now, this is the system preparation tool version 3.14, and this is what we're going to go ahead and use for creating our Golden Masters. So a couple of things that we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to select enter the system out of the box experience, and then click on generalize, and then finally we're going to go ahead and click on shutdown. And once this has been launched, or once this has been done, you never turn this virtual machine on ever again, as this could affect your linked clones. So let's go ahead and click on shutdown, click on OK, and we're just going to let Sysprep do its job. This shouldn't take too long. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes, depending on what you're using, depending on how much you've installed. But thankfully, this doesn't take too long. I have done this in about 10-20 minutes, but it's good practice though to just watch it to make sure that nothing goes wrong. But at this stage as well, when you are sysprepping, this is important that you don't open up anything. You literally just take your hands off the keyboard and mouse, because if you do anything at this stage, you try and move things around, you try and open up the C drive, you try and open up the internet, you're going to completely screw up the image and you're going to have to start again. Alrighty, so that did not take long at all. And what I've gone ahead and done, as you can see, I haven't touched anything. It's gone ahead and shut down the virtual machine. And this is the exciting part now, where we get to go ahead and create a linked clone once this is fully shut down. Alrighty, so as you guys can see here, the Golden Master has fully shut down. This we never ever turn on again. Say goodbye to it. in a way. So in order to create a golden or a template of it, we go ahead and click on virtual machine, and then we go ahead and click on snapshots. I go to the snapshot manager, and then I go ahead and click on create a linked clone. And then this is where we're linking that original this new virtual machine off the original virtual machine that we just created. So I'm going to call this Windows Server 2016, and because this is going to be our domain controller for the upcoming video or the upcoming series, I'm going to call it Windows Server 2016 Domain Controller. All right, and now I'm going to click on Save, and this will create a brand new virtual machine for us to use. Now, for some weird reason, it did a snapshot. I don't know why. Okay, it did, and as you can see straight away, Windows Server 2016 Domain Controller, and that is now based off of our original Golden Master. I'm going to go ahead and close that and close this one too. And as you can see straight away, our Windows Server 2016 Domain Controller is actually fully functioning, which is fantastic. Well, sort of in a way. We haven't set it up yet, but the Golden Master prep has worked. As you can see, Windows is going to launch. It shouldn't take too much longer. It does take a couple of seconds, so it's now going through the whole entire initial process like it just did. The difference is though that this has been set up with all the software. The only thing that you have to do is now turn it on and use it. Alrighty, so as you guys can see here, the domain controller has just done its initial setup. So just by getting its devices ready and doing the little spinny wheel all the time. But now it's at the process where it's actually going to ask us to do the setup again like we just did with our Golden Master. The only difference is it's slightly different to how we set it up originally, and I'll show you why and how. So as you can see, hopefully it's going to go to the setup process. It's almost finishing its initial configuration. Takes a couple of seconds. Alrighty, so as you guys can see, hi there. Let's get a few basic things out of the way. That's the first thing that we had to do when we set up our Golden Master. We didn't get this option. So this is slightly different to how the way we set it up, but it's still the same process. We click on next. I'm going to click on do this later for now for our product key. I'm going to click on accept. And I'm going to put in a new password of password 1 again. And let that finalize. And finally, all I'm going to go ahead and do is put in our password of password 1. And you'll notice in a second, hopefully when this boots up, that everything has been applied correctly. Including the fact is those two pieces of software we installed, such as Chrome and Firefox, we should see in a second. Takes its time. Alrighty, and as you guys can see straight away, our image has been prepared. And the sense that we now have Google Chrome and Firefox pre-installed, and as well, VMware Tools has been installed too. It's not launching for a second, I don't know why, but VMware Tools is installed, so there you guys go. So that, my friends, is how you guys go ahead and create a Golden Master image using Windows Server 2016. This, however, applies to any version of Windows that you'd like to use. I hope you guys found this video interesting, and I hope you guys like this new way of presentation. Please let me know in the please give me some feedback. Let me know in the comments section below. Give this video a like, and of course, always subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.